Order the City of Lawrenceburg Utility Service Board meeting for January 30th, 2019. With a roll call, I don't know where our... There he is.
Oh, sorry, we're quite ready yet.
I'm sorry. We good?
Board member Tony Abbott.
Here.
Board member Aaron Cook.
Here.
Board member Mel Davis.
Here.
Board member Randy Abner.
Here.
Board member Paul Seymour Jr.
Here.
Utility Director Olin Clausen.
Present.
City Attorney Dale Weldon.
Here.
And myself.
All right. Any announcements? Oh.
Colin, our new employee, Crystal's going to be standing in for him. He flew to, he's flying towards Florida. So, when we hired him, he said that, he had this vacation already not paid for, so.
Yeah.
So he's on the floor, so Crystal is going to give a report on the rodeo from 2018. And then I've got a couple other things that I'll talk about.
Okay.
Okay, so the first part of that is the total expense for the city rodeo last year was $107,096.89. Our income consisted of sponsorship, miscellaneous tickets, apparel, drinking, outstanding invoices was $150,000. Which left us at a net loss of $19,462. However, we were notified by IMEA a little bit of detail about the contributions that they gave. And on the other side of this financial report, we have listed a contribution of $10,000. Our total breakdown, what they gave in monetary and in kind was $57,329.
We've still got roughly $13,000 from vendors that we're still waiting on, and that consists of which communities?
Anderson, Scottsburg, and then we have Ashland, Annexer, Wesco, and then IMPA's entry.
And some of these, like with Annexter, we found out that we're waiting for us to start between the Cincinnati office. Mike, I didn't know we were supposed to split that invoice with Cincinnati and Reed's
Cincinnati office was
outfit.
just to pay it fully, and Reed stepped in and did Reed's thing. So
Wanted to have. So we had to resend those invoices, and I think Crystal sent them out today. Also, we're going to be providing electricity to Queen City Can Greendale. They've got Queen City Can's major expansion. They don't quite have the capacity to serve the load, and so they've asked for a step in for the interim and serve that load. Over to them to construct facilities and we'll have the electrical system done as well. Once they get their system constructed where they can take over that, take that load back, we'll agree to get other sense that we also consider some of the load going up to, I think, around the Walgreens area. And obviously we have the sufficient capacity to do that, and we'll do whatever we can to try to business to them. But it's one of the things that we're going to have to talk about is to propose or letter about that in the Greendale levy. And I think that's kind of a non-starter. And so we'll have to try to over there and serve them where we don't use the poles in the levee. Or use this as an opportunity to remove the poles in the levee and reload some stuff. So that's kind of to be determined. Now,
A question, Olin. Will that be primary metered, or will we get the readings of the individual customers' meters?
That's a good question. So we do one of two things. We either turn a bay at the substation over to them and meter at the substation. Meter that, per load. Or we would construct a metering facility somewhere else down the line, probably over by Queen City Candy, and do primary voltage there. I want to go in. That occurs station somewhere. It really doesn't matter. Station would probably be the easiest. It's network. They've got everything there. We're kind of letting Greendale decide. You know what they want? That makes sense. So more to come on that. You probably noticed the directional drill sitting down on 50. So we're just about to cross the road to finish up the project for Interpack. That's been a good project for us, and I think that project probably, even though it's taking us a little more time, because we're not experienced drillers, but we're getting there.
Weather permitting.
Yeah, weather permitting. But that will have saved enough money on that project to pay for nearly half the cost of the drill. If we would rented that out or hired that out, it would cost us about $80,000 probably. So that's coming along well.
Can I ask a question on that? We spent a lot of money on that. How hard is it to unhook that piece of equipment, bring it back, and get it out of an area? I mean, just to put it plain and simple, I voted on a nice piece of equipment, and now I see it outside a window.
Vermeer asks us not to pull it back out once you start a drill. You don't pull it back out. And then,
Say you couldn't leave the hose in and unhook the machine and then...
He said there, it's weather rated. You lift the seat up, all the controls are weather rated, everything's weather rated.
Didn't you guys have that during the holiday season? You moved that out of there because that wasn't done for hours.
No, we did
You pulled it out. You pulled it out of there.
Yeah, when we get done the drill,
Okay.
we pull the pipe in and we move it to the next spot.
Yeah, you have a sending and receiving. So that we've done several drills, sections up through that whole road.
I was going to call you. I didn't see it out there. Did somebody steal it?
Well, I just want to see it taken care of, so if that's the case, that's all. That's what I got.
They've also signed a dedicated internet service contract with us, correct, Moosh?
It was not for DIA service, but they had a signed contract for the small business 1 gig service.
Okay. Okay, cool.
They said, they've already signed it, they're just waiting for us to take fiber to talk to them. I told them that we're going to pull the wire at the same time.
And that'll also get us down to the boat docks for those cameras, the boat docks.
Okay, good.
So, and then on cameras, Ludlow Hill's done. So those are all spliced in, all the cameras at Ludlow Hill are now.
How long, was that done, when did it just get done? Oh,
No, they finished it Friday.
Okay.
I think Jeff Bittner has some work to do on his side.
I can talk about that.
Sure.
Basically,
Do you mind going to the lectern, Moosh?
Mike?
Do you mind going to the lectern?
So, thank you all. And the whole purpose of the meeting was the migration plan for the city. Everyone is on the same page as far as what needs to be completed before we can do the migration to the data center. I set a timeline of 2 weeks. It's a little aggressive, but essentially
Required is for us to
get some PDUs. Next Gen wanted the 2 racks farthest away from the door, so all the way in the back. The city would have one of those racks. The police have another rack. The police are on a completely isolated ring, so the police will not be on any of the fibers that the municipal ring is on. They just have to be isolated for their own chain of command issue or chain of custody, and they prefer to be isolated. So We told them that's not a problem. Basically, next Tuesday, we'll have the Sienna switches configured, which is what we will give the handoff to NextGen. And what they needed from us was they needed some power supplies. So we asked if they want to install them. They said no, we'd like LMU to get us all the power and everything we need and have all the switches ready so that when they come in, then they don't even need us here. They just unplug their existing circuit and plug into the LMU fiber. And so I've already ordered the 2 power supplies that are required. We'll get those next week. Brandon will come in next week, install the power supplies, and put the switches at the various locations. And as soon as that's done, we will let Carrie as well as Kevin Pressler know that our work is complete, and then all they have to do is come in the middle of the night and do whatever they need to switch the city over.
The only reason I was asking about the park was, I think a week and a half ago, we had some damage up there.
Yeah,
A car did some donuts or
Okay.
something weird.
The cameras at the park, they've finished that, but there has to.
Well, so, and then the cameras on are on another completely dedicated fiber ring, because essentially the way that the system is designed is one LMU has their internal utility network. The ISP portion for selling fiber to the home or fiber to the business is on a separate ring that's completely isolated from both the utility, the municipal network, and the police network. As well as we've dedicated 2 fibers just for the cameras. The cameras only go to the police, to the data center. They want to have it that way for their security. That way there's no chain of custody issues. And like LMU itself or the data center really has no access to that. And so that way it's out of our control. Whatever the police want to do with the cameras or whatever Jeff Bittner wants to do with the cameras, all we're providing is a pipe and, whatever they need to do. But we switch at the hospital substation because right now, even though the cameras are connected on the fiber, there's nothing on the other end that they're connected to because there's no electronics for them to connect to at the hospital substation, which will then get routed back to the data center. Okay. So that's what will happen on Tuesday. Once Brandon configures the Sienna switch on Tuesday, then it's up to Indicom and NextGen to do whatever they need to do, and the police as far as we're concerned, because once LMU's tasks are completed, and at that point it's up to NextGen and Indicom to do whatever they need to as far as getting their camera feeds to the right location, and we assist with that.
And I'm happy to report that we've started actually onboarding some customers now. So we've got some customers in the downtown area that are on network.
Who have you guys got so far?
We've got Al Schran, we've got LCD, and we are, if the weather would allow us to, we'd start hooking the customers up starting on Butler. So we've got about 9 customers on Butler. And then we've got a number of customers in the downtown area that have signed letters of intent, and basically the entire Riviera complex has signed letters of intent. So as soon as the weather kind of breaks and allows us to, we'll get in and start providing those services to those different groups. And we're going to try to focus on different parts of the whole footprint, so different parts of town, kind of spreading the love.
Because the questions I get is just, when are they coming to our side of the town or whatever? And I told them, I said, they need to contact you guys and find out, but I guess it's based upon how many people you're getting to sign up in that part of town, right?
Initially it is, but if we've got 2 or 3 customers downtown, we're going to try to get to them too. Okay. What we've done, like on Butler, we had a couple of customers there, and it was a logical place to start. Sure. And so we knocked doors and started letting people know that we were going to be in the neighborhood, hooking these couple of customers up, and if they came in and signed contracts and committed to service, that we could get them while we were there too. So that worked well for us because a lot of people have just kind of been waiting. So we really expect to pick up as every day that the weather gets better. more that we can do, and people are just really excited about it.
Yeah, I get calls asking when they're going to reach their part of town, and so as soon as the weather gets a little warmer, because when it's below freezing, the fiber itself, it's thinner than a hair follicle, so it's very, very sensitive when it comes to those extreme temperatures. And if we try to do any splicing right now, those fibers will crack, and then we have to resplice, and it's a nightmare. So.
What about the free Wi-Fi throughout town? When will it be ready?
Well, may I address that? Okay. So there was some clarification. I received a call from the local newspaper, and I told them that I would
run an article
and I would send it to their editor so that there's a very clear understanding of the utility is providing as far as free wireless service. Initially, I believe there was some speculation about it being free internet throughout the town, and that is not the case. That
was not speculation. That's what we agreed on. Wi-Fi.
As we deploy the network, it will be blanketed with Wi-Fi.
All right.
The free Wi-Fi is going to be. There's going to be two stages. As we deploy to a customer's home, we will in essence be able to blanket an area on that location, that installation. We're also putting in dedicated APIs at the low-income housing areas that are specifically for outdoor. It's not a customer, it's an API for all of those customers. The one thing I think is the misunderstanding is people are under the impression they're going to be able to watch YouTube videos and stream things, and they're not going to be able to. They'll be able to check email, be able to get on their Facebook accounts, those kinds of things, but they will not be able to stream content. It was just, there's no way we could do that and monetarily afford it. Secondly, by doing that, there would be no reason for customers to become paying customers. And so they'll have it, they'll be able to do the things that we talked about in this council meetings, our utility service board meetings, like their schoolwork, the homework assignments, all those things. They'll be able to do those things without any issue at all. But when it comes to Netflix and iTunes and stuff like that, they won't be able to do that.
Or free basic Wi-Fi.
Free basic Wi-Fi.
Where will that be? Where will people have free basic Wi-Fi?
Besides, I was told that those would be a priority to get free wireless to those customers that really need it. The other locations that are priority on my list are parks. So Ludlow Park, Arch Street Park right down here, and areas like that, this downtown strip.
When we discussed this, you said, there will not be one spot in Lawrenceburg that does not have free Wi-Fi. And if we found out there was one, you would make sure that it was done.
Tony, I stand by that statement, but understand that just like it takes us time to hook customers up, it's going to be a graduated process for us to do that. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take us some time to do that, just like it's going to take us time to get to paying customers.
Okay, so if we're starting up on Ludlow Hill, it's going to be a long time before we get to downtown, isn't it?
No, because we're doing projects in the downtown area too. We're not spending all of our time up on Ludlow. We're doing some there and coming down here.
I split 2 crews up. I had a crew up on the hill and I had a crew down here.
Oh, okay. Well, all I heard was we're starting up there.
I don't deal with the Wi-Fi stuff. We're trying to just get customers on it. And I split 2 crews up to get started down here to please customers down here, please customers on the hill.
So when I get asked when's the free Wi-Fi, what kind of answer should I give to the people downtown?
You can direct them to us, and we can talk to them about it, and we can just be very frank that what our schedule is for work.
I don't like to direct them. I mean, I like to give them some type of answer. That's I say in
months?
9 months.
It depends on the location.
Because if we're in an area and we've constructed it and we have routers in those areas, there's going to be a presence of
those areas.
So it all depends on where we are, where we've
projects,
and so forth. And I'll be happy to give you. We have status meetings every Monday to talk about what we've gotten done, where we're at, I'd be happy to provide you with copies of those, and you'll be able to see where we're at, what we've done, and based on that report, you could tell customers kind of where we're going, because we kind of plan the next week out then too.
All right, what about the Fairhavens, east and west?
Fairhaven, east
At
and
one
west.
time you said you're going to run the bars. You talk to the owners or something. They finally give you permission.
Well, we talked to them. We haven't got, they like the idea of it, but they haven't given us permission yet. They're reviewing that in order to give us permission. Believe it or not, some of these housing areas, you can't just go into them and serve a customer. You have to do it at the kind of the request and by design of the entity that owns the units. So, and we've had several conversations with the group out of Ohio that owns some of these buildings, working with them to get permission to serve inside those buildings.
When I went to go talk to Tuscany Bay off of 48, they told me that their parent company is in the process of either purchasing the land on High Street where the old training ground for the linemen. I wasn't sure if that was an accurate statement by the...
Their property management company is just managing the property. Flaherty and Collins Management is managing Tuscany Bay. Have been for just a little while or something.
Okay.
I don't think it's been very long that I'm aware of.
But
Well, and I talked to the office manager, and I'm not sure if she was just, making this up or what, but she said that they've already purchased that land and they're building. So that's not.
We got a project with them.
You have a project with them, but they're ready for it whenever we can get to them. Obviously, the folks at Riviera, when I went to go present to them, I had. The whole room was packed. I ended up walking out of there with like 30 or 40 customers that are ready to sign up today. Pretty much every place I've gone, they're just want to know when and how quickly we can get them the fiber, and that we're, I told them as quickly as we can, weather permitting, we will get you hooked up. And I know some people are a little frustrated because this is taking a little longer than expected, but I explained to them that it's, there's always going to be some speed bumps when you're building these large infrastructure projects, and it's really how we deal with those speed bumps is going to determine whether this project is a success or not. And 90% of them have been very thoughtful and understanding of some of our delays, and they're just waiting for us to get hooked up, and they're ready.
Thanks.
Thank you.
The other announcement I have, last announcement, is we got a cashier position that I'd like to get us aware that I'm going to be hanging. This is the $17 an hour position. And if you'd like to have some discussion on that, we can do so.
Yeah, I got a couple comments. I just want updated. I'd like to keep everything fair and moving. I think we've been doing a great job of hiring overall in the city. And my question is when we brought her in, she was brought in temporarily to assist because we had a worker on maternity leave. Now, is the worker back? So, in my opinion, I think she should be laid off because that's what we needed her for. And if we're going to put a person up, which is up to the group, to take this position, we're going to bid this thing out internally.
Correct.
If somebody's interested, we'll review that. If not, then we go out public, and I'm just going to say everybody in the county has the opportunity for that particular job. That's the way I see this happening. Is that what we're looking to do? That's correct.
It is. The only thing I'd say is Rachel was out on maternity leave, so we were shorthanded with her in.
Yep.
We're still net lost one person because of things that happened in the department. We kept her on plain and simply because of the workload and the need to have somebody. And I talked with Scott Rich about this with the union. Jenny Felix and I both did. And we explained to him that I don't like having somebody working temp for prolonged periods of time. It's, you know, because in the past I think people have been worked temporarily and laid off and then brought back and worked temporarily and laid off and brought back. And I think Jimmy Beard was one of those people for a term. If I'm not mistaken, Andy. Anyway, I explained to him that was not my intention. The thing that caused us the delay with that was we had 2 people who had filed grievances over a position at the city courts that hadn't gotten resolved. One of those people went out on maternity leave, and so it was difficult for them to even have a discussion about are they going to sign the bid or they're not going to sign the bid. And really, we didn't know until, I think, the 3rd of January. Is that when Rachel came back? January 3? So Rachel came back January 3rd and basically agreed to sign the bid here, the open bid here. And so that left the vacancy. And like I told Scott Rich, I said, had that not occurred, we would have hung a bid internally, you know, several months ago. But somebody inside the city, if they wanted to bid on that job, and if they hadn't, then we would have advertised for it. The goal is to hang that internally. Let it hang for 10 days, city signs it. If nobody signs it, then we would advertise and we would conduct interviews. And if you'd like to participate in the interview process with us, that'd be great with me.
Can we use the hiring committee for that?
No, we wouldn't use the hiring committee. You know, those are my positions to fill. But if Paul wants to sit in on the process and actually weigh in on who gets hired, I don't have any problem with that. And I think Jenny Felix would tell you that anytime that she's interested in the hiring process, I have never said, this is my choice, I want this person. Every time we've included Brittany Dollar in the process. She had particular expertise when it comes to the accounting and stuff. And so I gave them an equal vote on who we selected. I didn't say this is the person, pick this person. I let them speak freely about who they'd like to have. And so that system seems to be working quite well for us. If you'd like to participate that with us, you're welcome to.
I mean, I'd love to participate. I'm not a guy that knows a whole lot about secretaries, but I do think I know a lot about the fair process, and I do have to answer to the people in Lawrenceburg a lot about when we hire and the choices we make, and I don't mind doing that. I just, you know, I'm all about everybody having a shot at this job.
I agree.
So that's where I'm at. And of course, it's up to the board. But my other question is on this cashier's job, the number you put it in, it was lower than it's an introductory.
Yeah, it's probably up a little bit now because of the 2% raise.
Right.
But it's probably 17 and a quarter, something like that, maybe.
And I just want to make sure, because the way I understand it, we've got different jobs. Whoever gets hired on this job is going to end up being at that wage with the union negotiated raise every year, and not just be able to hop from that one unless there's a bid posted. That person would be able to try to get that bid.
Yeah,
but
it's
not just, hey, I'm going to give you a raise.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
The reason that Rachel signed the bid down at the city courts was purely and simply over money.
Okay.
You know, she was at the $17 an hour. The bid at the city courts was $10 an hour more than that or something. I'm not sure.
Well, I got a question about that then. Rachel's not in the union yet.
No, Rachel's in the union.
The temporary?
No, that's Christina.
All right, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, Rachel,
Now
so
I'm good.
She's down there, and
because
way for her to progress.
monetarily, if there's no other positions here, I was not going to advance her. The same would be true for this position. Whoever takes this job has got to understand that they're going to move up in the utilities, not unless somebody above them retires or transfers to another department.
Okay.
So they could be in that position indefinitely, they could be there for a year. You know, it just depends on what happens above them.
Well, and that's a good point, Paul. We have to follow this collective bargaining agreement. We have to follow the salary ordinance. Paying anyone above the salary ordinance is illegal under federal law. It's an unfair labor practice.
Christina's the one that came in as temporary help.
That's correct.
Okay. So Christina, if she happens to want this job, she's gonna have to go through the hiring process.
She'll have to go through the hiring process just like anybody else. And I'll tell you, we have a list of some pretty qualified candidates that have applied in the past. When we hired Christina temporarily, we went ahead and reached out to, I would say, probably 30 people to see if they were interested in that position. And some of the people are some of the people who applied for other positions with us. And really, she was the only one that came in and responded to it because it was
Temporary job.
Yeah, it was temp, and nobody else really wanted to do that. They just didn't have a desire to. So.
Okay.
That's it for my announcements.
No other announcements? All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A motion will carry. Committee reports, Mr. Clausen.
I think we've pretty much covered
Okay.
the reports.
All right. New business. Mr. Harper? Fiber trailer.
Yeah. My name's Mark Harper. I'm the electrical foreman for Lawrenceburg Utilities, but today I'll be representing the fire department. I'm assuming. All right, so in your packets, there are two items in your package. That is a fiber trailer and a vibrating plow. And I'll talk about the fiber trailer first. So, in instance, for the fiber trailer, as Moosh spoke, you can't go out right now in the weather it is right now and go splice fiber. But if we had this fiber trailer, you'd be able to pull it in. You'll have 70-degree weather inside the trailer, you know, and you'd be able to do all the splicing you need. So, I mean, it's a need for the fiber department. And then the vibrating plow, it's to do clean installations for drops to the homes. You won't be digging up yards. It'll be sewing it in nice and neat, you know, just kind of shakes the ground, pushes it 12 inches in. And there might even be more of a need for it. I spoke with Andy today to, you can get another bit push, 1-inch conduit in with it, maybe even a little more. I'm going to call Vermeer and see if they have it where you can push it in 36 inches. And you might be able to install water lines with it if you need to.
I think it'd also be useful like in parks and stuff as well, because you could pull it, you know, put irrigation lines in for sprinklers.
Yep.
So I mean, it's got a lot of use, and the one thing it does provide us is the ability to do installations without tearing yards up.
Clean installations. It's more why we're going with this product instead of going with a mini excavator and tearing a yard up and having to go back, patch it, grass seed, and wait for it to grow. But everything is in. If you guys have any questions, everything's in your packet. I'll be more happy to answer any question you guys have.
I talked to you about the
The trailer?
yeah, and you said that it will prevent like the dust, keep that
Oh,
off the fiber.
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, the trailer really gives you kind of a white coat facility, you know, controlled environment. Even in the summertime when it's hot out and humid out, it gives you a climate-controlled area to do all these kind of connections and fill them up and so forth.
You'll have air conditioning and heat on the trailer. It'll be self-sufficient. You'll have a generator that goes with it. Mel?
Well, plus when you do the splicing, it keeps the dirt and the grit and the
Keeps
whatever
everything
else out of the fiber.
Absolutely. And that's your main goal. So when you're splicing up on a pole, it just makes it a little difficult.
That's the same type of trailer.
Yeah, it's the same rig that Transtel was using,
Yeah.
driving around town. You guys seen parked on the side road?
Here.
Yep, it's the same rig.
Now, my question is we've got a new fiber optics utility.
Yes, sir.
Just getting started. So this is the kind of stuff that you guys have money for? Do you need money? And is this also going to be covered? And I know the answer to this, it is. You have been good about your replacement, your plan. So you've got all this figured, and this is kind of a new utility startup?
It is. I mean, it's The fiber trailer is uniquely, useful for the fiber utility. The vibratory plow can be used for a number of different things, but primarily at first, especially, it'll be used for the fiber optic. We do have money in the budget to purchase these items. The debt will be, at least all of the debt for the fiber trailer will be put on the fiber utility. And whatever portion we feel is 35%, 40%, 50% of the vibratory plow, just depends on what other uses we have for it with other departments. That debt will be put on the utility as well, on the fiber utility, and some of it might go on electric or however we split that up. Long and short is that we do have the money for them. And I would say that, in order to, well, put it this way, for a fiber utility, we're a fiber utility. And the things that we need, the tools and so forth that we need to be able to do that kind of work and be legitimate, these are the kinds of things that we need. And I would say that, when it comes to the purchase of these things, you haven't seen too many big purchases come through. The Vermeer drill, that was really the only other piece of equipment that we bought, and that has many, many uses. That one we can certainly do water lines with. We can do some sewer lines with it. We can do all of our electric with that, and our fiber stuff. So we've been pretty selective on what we've purchased.
Like this plow can be used for other.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
But most especially, right now that the Vermeer drill is primarily doing an electric project. All the conduit that we're pulling back is to provide an alternate electric feed to Intrapec. So.
And this isn't a spur of the moment you've known about, because two and a half years ago, there was a group of us that went on a field trip, looked at this equipment. I don't remember where, but
Now, we do have a vibratory plow here right now from Vermeer. They're letting us demo it for a few weeks.
It's remote control, and they made it that way so you're not on the piece of equipment and you go on the side of the hill, and a 200-pound piece of equipment falls on you. You're able to operate it well 30, 40 feet away from it, and it fits through any gates, any standard gates.
So we'll be able to get some time with it and see if it's actually the unit that we want. But assuming that it is, the price is in the packet. I think if you guys would like to, Your Honor, I think we take them one at a time.
Yeah, I was going to say individually.
Sure.
All right. Any other questions regarding the fiber trailer? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase of the fiber trailer. Moved. Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion will carry. The next item is the vibratory plow. I'll entertain a motion to approve it. Moved. Second?
second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion will carry.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mikey.
Mr. Lyons.
Thank you. Like extra paper.
Other tree, yeah.
I don't know how aware you guys are of how our meter reading is done. We currently have an automated system. It's an AMR system. We're proposing installing a newer, updated system. It's an AMI system. This will be complete with new water meters and all new electric meters. The electric metering would be smart metering, meaning that we'll have the ability to bill different rates at different times of day. That's coming. It's coming for everyone. It's going to be coming for us as a purchaser of power. We're going to pay more during high demand times than we are during low demand times, and as such, that's what almost all utilities are moving to with their customer base. It gives the customers the ability to try to save themselves some money. After 6 p.m., they do their laundry instead of doing it during the day or in the morning. And
there's less electricity during times, and they can save
themselves money. Another thing that the smart metering gives us the ability to do remote connects and disconnects for new services or for non-payment. So we don't have an employee going out and physically pulling meters like we do now, having issues with face-to-face with customers like we do now. So that's a big benefit for the another thing that the customers will get is a customer portal where they can get online and they can look at their usage. These meters will report every 15 minutes if we set them up that way, so people can see when they're using the most water or the most power. They can determine whether or not they have a leak. They know, hey, I haven't been home for 10 hours today. How did I use 63 gallons? Yeah. They'll be able to see that real time, online, be cloud-based.
Which is especially helpful with budgeting. You know, when I get people in the office that can't afford to pay a bill they've already racked up, they always ask, you know, how do I save money? And the answer is, well, use less energy. And so it's hard for someone to know they're using less when the only way to know is at the end of the month to get your bill. This will allow the customers to look on a daily basis and see exactly what they owe the utility to date. And so
is that built into the existing website now? Would it be just a part of that?
It'll be a portal that's on the existing. So what they'll be able to do is they'll say the 15th of the month, they'll be able to look and see what their consumption is. If they've got a budget for $400 for electricity and they're midway through the month and they're at $250, they know they're going to be a little bit over budget if they don't slow down.
Right.
And they can check it on a daily basis.
They can even set themselves alerts. That they can set themselves an alert that they know that they don't want to go over 2,000 kilowatts in a month. If they can set alerts for, say, 1,500 kilowatts. If they've hit that mid-month, they know, well, maybe I'm going to have to live with a 78-degree thermostat temperature the rest of this month in the summer versus 70. Things like that. They can do the alerts like that. Just gives the customer more control. I passed out the what the costs are projected to be, and this is
question. When I looked at this prior to my retirement, can this be set up to notify the utility companies about outages?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Both on the water side and the electric side. For instance, this even the water meters are smart meters per se. They can detect if it's an empty pipe. They can detect if it's reverse flow.
If there's a leak, or
they can detect if there's a leak. And it'll send an alert
on the customer side.
On the customer side, correct. If there's if a customer normally uses 200 gallons a day and suddenly they've used 500 gallons, if they've got their account set up on the portal, it will call them. It will send them a text. It will alert them and say, you have a leak today, rather than, the ground like in downtown Lawrenceburg, it's silty, sandy. Somebody can have a 10-gallon a minute leak and, say, a 5-gallon a minute leak, and they know it. It soaks into the ground, never comes to the surface. Right. And at the end of the month, they get a bill for 65,000 gallons, or and it's expensive. So this will alert the customers to that real time. They don't have to wait until we get the read after a month and tell them, hey, we think you have a leak.
A couple other things too. The AMR metering system that we have now, that's automatic meter readings. That equipment, just like with radios, it's kind of a scam, but that equipment's not going to be supported after a couple more years. So the industry is forcing people to go to AMI meters. They're not going to support the AMR. So this is one of the things where eventually we're going to have to go with new meters.
Right, that's correct. And our water meters in particular, they really only expect these meters to last 20 years. We have 50% of our water system meters are that old now. We have, of course, replaced some along the way. The reading equipment, like that Olin's talking about, a lot of the transmitters are failing now because they're just of that age. The battery life would be for 15 years. We've replaced a lot. We're still replacing. We continue to replace. So these expenses that we're talking about here are coming whether we get a new system or we don't get a new system. So, in a nutshell, it's going to be roughly $750,000 for the electric utility and $750,000 for the water utility. Roughly, there's numbers are a little different on this sheet, but
Are we doing the work in-house?
as far as the meter change outs, yeah. The installation of the AMI system, that'll be done by the vendor. And we're not married to Census yet. They've provided us some numbers here.
This is an example sheet of what the project could cost.
They're either the largest or one of the top 3 largest AMI and metering companies in the country. So they're a very good company. We may end up going with them. We may not. We'll get some more pricing, and check out some other systems. But we liked Census so far. They're an all-in-one product. So we don't have 2 different reading systems. We're not trying to marry one company's reading system to some other company's meters. So it's a one-stop shop for them. So we like that, and we'll look at some other too. But
I think what we're looking for tonight is just permission from the board to be able to officially start looking into a company, not necessarily this company, but developing some standards and getting some bid documents or some RFP documents together for someone to respond to.
Mayor, I'd make a motion, we let them move forward on the metering.
Okay, so the motion is to be able to go forward to obtain bids from
Second.
on metering. First, you got a first, you got a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion will carry. Chloride.
is that me again? That is me again.
That's you.
Chlorides. A little bit of background quickly. In 2005, we discovered a high concentration of chlorides in a portion of our aquifer where we were looking to install our new potable raw water wells for the new water treatment plant. So we hired a consulting firm, HC Nutting, to figure it out, let us know what we needed to do. They suggested that we start pumping water from some old Shenley wells, and we did that. We started that in 2006, and we pumped all the way through 2016, and we made no ground. We were successful at sequestering the chlorides and keeping them away from our well field, but as far as depleting the source of the chlorides and getting a cleanup done, it just wasn't happening. So in 2017, we hired another consulting firm to come in and confirm the original consulting firm's findings and try to pinpoint where these chlorides are coming from, what's the cause. All along, we assumed the cause was from Greendale's water treatment plant. For years, they used to backwash their softeners over the hill, and that's a lot of chloride content. We assumed this was all old residual chlorides, and over time we could pump and we would get rid of them. Well, we didn't. So in 2017, we hired Egan and Associates, and they pinpointed it, and they found that Greendale's brine system at their treatment plant was still continually feeding chlorides into this, and that's why we're not making any ground. So Greendale has since corrected that problem, and they've taken on the responsibility of further cleanup, and I just need to give you guys some heads up on some numbers. So from 2005 to 2016, we spent in the area, some of these had to be estimated, but in the area of $645,000 trying to get this thing remedied and made zero ground. So in 2017, we hired a new firm, and since we hired a new firm, we have spent $80,883. And in 2019, we are projecting to spend $110,000. Greendale has offered to fund some of that, and I'll defer to Olin because it's a conversation with Greendale recently.
Mayor Weiss came to visit me to discuss this issue. I told him at the regional sewer district meeting that kind of that we needed to visit and what it was about. So he came to see me, and we talked about the numbers. He sent a sheet. It's in the packet. And he doesn't like it. I wouldn't expect him to like it. But he acknowledges that they have ownership of it. I was very honest with him. I told him that I didn't have any idea what the board's feelings would be on this, if what their directions or directives would be about the money. Paul asked me how long this had been going on. Andy and I told him that it's been probably going on for a few decades, but we've probably been trying to mitigate the problem since when?
2005.
2005. So that tells you how many years we've been paying out money trying to solve it.
Yeah. They've been chasing the chloride since I've been here.
Well, and I'm going to add to that a little bit. I'm going to vote for Greendale to pay for it, and here's the reason. They were made aware. They knew that prior to being made aware where their brine was going, and they kept pumping it that way until the EPA, I think, finally said, you got to stop it. So if you're aware of a problem and you don't resolve the issue until the officials come in, then you got to pay for your problem. That's my opinion.
Well, a couple of you that I did talk with, and I think the reason Paul was asking me about the time period is, and I'm guessing maybe you were alluding to a time period similar to make right on the date, or.
Well, I mean, here's my thing. It's a little different situation, but all I would ask of is we've had a policy here for 2-3 years of if somebody owes us money, we're gonna get it. Now, I'm all right with that policy, okay? But I also know that there's other people owe us money, so I want to know in the next few meetings where we're at. So I want a promise from my utility group that if I vote yes for them to pay us in the next couple of meetings, everything's gonna be brought out in the open the right way. Because we took a vote on, 13 to 17 customers, and we went after it and we got it, and you did a good job on it. We're still in litigation over a little bit of it. This is gonna start it up again. You ain't gonna be the most popular person now in Greendale. And I hate for my utility director to throw it's a hard job.
Well, it is. This is a little different makeup in the sense that, you know, we've the mayor and I and Andy and Steve Lampert and Mayor Weiss, and Dale was there, and Anthony Smart. And Mel, you may have been at that meeting too, I can't remember, but we sat down and we had a pretty amicable discussion about this, and Greendale hasn't at any time tried to obfuscate their ownership of this. They've never one time given us the impression they wouldn't try to make it right. In fact, they've said, please let us make it right. They wanted to pay our contractor directly. We weren't comfortable with that because we felt it might create an issue where he he couldn't testify for us. He'd be conflicted. And so Dale set up some language to allow us to basically direct the work that needed to be done on Greendale's behalf, and Greendale agreed to reimburse us. That way it didn't conflict our expert. And so they've been really good to work with. I think that probably the thing that ought to happen is maybe there should be a discussion with Greendale about this, and they may surprise you with their willingness to step up to the plate.
I've got one more question. Are we wanting pay to this date? How are we monitoring? I realize they fixed their plant, Andy, but is the problem still lingering, or?
Right, the problem still lingers. There's still a large amount of chlorides in the aquifer over in that area. One of the directives from our consultant was that they remove a large amount of soil and replace it with like kind soil. They've removed it, but they haven't replaced it yet, which isn't an issue at all. But they will replace that soil. The next step is for them to install interceptor wells. They're going to install 2 interceptor wells, and then they're going to start pumping like what we did. They're going to be pumping a lot closer to the source, the known source, than what we were. We took advantage of some existing wells that serve the purpose of keeping the chlorides away from our well number 3, our potable well number 3. We quit pumping in 2016 because we had both pumps burned up. And rather than continue to spend money, let's figure something out. We're just spinning our wheels. So we're moving forward. Greendale is spending money. Like I said, they've removed that. They're going to do these wells. They don't know where they're going to pump this water to yet. They're looking at pumping it to the sewage treatment plant. That's one option. The other option is to pump it to the river, which is difficult to get from the fairgrounds to the river. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. Treatment costs of the sewer plant are going to be expensive, so they're weighing their options there right now. But something needs to happen pretty soon with it.
That's probably the trickiest piece of all this is the way that the Ohio River calculates the chlorides for discharge is every single point of discharge. So if you have one point, you can have another point down from about 100 feet, and they both get to max discharge up to a certain level of chlorides. The South Dearborn Regional Sewer District already discharges a amount of chlorides just in everyday business from the cities and from the distilleries. And so it puts us in position where if we go to the sanitation district, we're limited on how much chlorides they can pump. And so the time frame for them to mediate this becomes really, really long, because it's all about pumping volume and getting the stuff out of there and away from where it's concentrated. And so if you can pump, pick a number, 200, parts per unit a day versus 500 or whatever, the more water they can pump, the quicker they can mediate the issue. So, but then going to the river poses some logistical issues. How do you get to the river from over there? It's not going to be an easy thing to sort out. And we're working on it. We've met with IDEM. We had a meeting with IDEM in Indianapolis. Talk with them about getting some guidance. I don't know that we've gotten kind of the final answer from them yet. It really depends on some of the testing that we're doing over at South Dearborn right now with Bill Nyer. He's trying to get a baseline on the chlorides. But it's a complex issue, and it's going to take a while. It's going to take some time to figure out.
I mean, this doesn't end it either.
Right.
Because you still got to monitor what you got going on the same way you have been.
Right.
Yeah, I'd say, it's an ongoing issue. The good thing is, from this point, that Andy and Olin are ensuring that Greendale is doing what they're supposed to do. So the way we set it up was so that we could kind of lead that, because we're protecting our wells. So yeah. I would say this is more of an update than a let's take immediate action. But they are putting stakes in the ground as far as 2007, 2006, 17, and then 17 to 16. So we just kind of keep tracking it, and then we'll go to Greendale when it's over.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that from a certain date, they're saying, yeah, we'll pay all the costs.
Right, and as of 2018, they've offered to reimburse us, everything once it was identified. Personally, I think they owe us from the day that we hired Egan and Associates. They owe us every penny we've expended.
They owe us from the day that we discovered the chlorine till it's finished.
And technically, yes, they owe us back to 2005. Are we willing to go after Greendale for that other 645? I don't know, but if we are, we are. They definitely owe us from the date that we pinpointed it and said this is your issue, and it is. And
do you want any action on this tonight?
No, we just the board. It's going to be very important that the board guide us through this process with them. That we have an open dialogue and talk about things.
And it does involve two communities
and two elected bodies, and And we just need to be pragmatic about how we proceed. I'm not advocating one way or the other. I just want everybody to understand the situation where we're at, and probably encourage you guys to, at some point, have a summit almost with Greendale to talk about the issue, because, you know, like I said, it's not done. Getting the water to the river is going to be a very complex and probably expensive thing. And I think it would be good for all of us to understand what that is and what the costs are going to be.
Right. And just so everybody is aware that since we did discontinue pumping those old Shenley wells and didn't pour more money into them, that our potable well number 3 is compromised now. The chloride levels typically would be, say, in the 30 to 40 range, and they're in the 350 range.
So it does have deleterious effects on our water system and our ability to provide water from those wells to our customers. So I would say that this rises to a high level of importance for us, and needs to be dealt with. We need to ensure that it's dealt with.
Has Greendale given any kind of a timeline lately about when they're going to be able to mitigate this completely?
It all depends on how they're going to try to get that water to the river.
Get it pumped out, or where to?
You know, because that's, I mean, it's, they're talking about trying to get up to bridge and get to an old line that was there, maybe throw in with MGPI's Clearstream or something, but it's, you know, all those things are very complex.
Let me ask you this, guys. Could we use this to push them? In other words, you know, fellas, we need to see this project moving. We need to see it completed so that we can start monitoring how it's working. And we're sitting here watching this because if I'm going to make a decision and I want to take and get this money from them right now, do I hurt their chances of having enough money to do the project? I would rather sit on this a little bit, let them know that we ain't scratching it off, and then taking and making sure that they spend whatever money they need to spend to fix the problem ASAP and not in the next 5 or 10 years.
Well, I can tell you how they can fix the problem real quickly. What they can do is abandon that water plant, buy water from Lawrenceburg, make it a pumping plant, and that solves the issue right there.
No, it don't, Mel. Because,
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't, because we got an ongoing problem that's already in the ground.
Well,
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm talking about any more going into the ground, okay?
Any more, but
They
what
won't-
we got's a problem, right,
They
Andy?
won't, they won't have to spend any money to resolve the issue. The issue will be resolved if they buy water from us, turn that plant into a pumping station, and then we pump the salt out of the ground, the existing salt out of the ground.
You're saying what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's just that I want to say, look, guys, we ain't forgetting about this, but you get busy.
Right.
To your point, Paul, I think if we went to the state of Greendale, get your checkbook out and write us a check for this amount of money.
Get rid of that
I
dumbass
think that it
thing.
would, I think that it would hurt their fix things. I don't think that we're going to pay any of the cost from that acknowledgement point on. They have said that they will take care of those costs. But look at, you know, the number that's on this piece of paper. I don't think that gets them anywhere close to getting a pipe to the river. I mean, that could be well over $1 million to try
It's hard to say. You know, there's ways to get there that maybe IDEM will allow, maybe they won't. That could be fairly inexpensive, but it's in there. The ball's in their court. We can't dictate.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't want to forget about this money and then go out and build a new playground.
No,
I want them to fix the problem.
I think we ought to have a legal document drawn up. It says, these are your costs ongoing until it's completed. And make a suggestion on how they can resolve their issues with their water plant.
And
I think it's perfectly,
okay for us to ask them for a time frame.
Yeah.
I think that that's important for us to say, you know, is this, when do you think you're going to have some of these things resolved? And I do think you've got a leverage point here if you choose to make it one. But Steve's been pretty good about getting the work done. They haven't let any grass grow under their feet, and I hope that they continue that pace. I believe that they will. But it would be nice to kind of have some timelines identified and kind of measure the work and see if we're getting there.
Right, and part of the process was Eldon touched on it, the chloride testing over at the sewer plant. Whether or not Greendale can send that flow there. So through half of November and all of December, there was daily testing done on the effluent at the sewer district to determine how much additional chlorides could be added there.
And one of the things we have to weigh is any new industry that comes to town. If we let Greendale go to the sewer plant and it pushes our threshold at the river to the max level, if a new industry came into town that for some reason had chlorides, heavy in chlorides, it would hamper the ability to be able to treat them and have them go through the plant. So we have to think about that as well. You don't want to, from a profit standpoint, you don't want to preclude new businesses coming in because that's going to be profitable, where this is you're just getting rid of water.
Well, with my scenario, what I had proposed to them at one time was we would take over their well field along with our well field. And we could clean up our well field while we're using their well field and get rid of that plant. And we have a good plant down here in Lawrenceburg. Treat the water, and we're already connected to Greendale. All they got to do is open a valve. Real simple. And put 2 pumps in there to pump water up to their water tower. It's not that hard. If I could figure it out, it can be done. That would be my suggestion to Greendale. Plus, paying us the
Well, again, this
Question from the floor for you.
Go ahead.
Been paying attention since Sandy started talking on this issue. And I didn't get overly concerned until I got to Mr. Clausen at the end.
Did I hear you correctly when
You said this is in
some way affected by water supply?
Yeah, but I want to.
Because when you said that, to finish, I watched the faces of the council people and the administration, and I saw a couple of looks I didn't like. So does it affect our water supply?
Yeah, but I want to be sure and couch that in the right way. Chlorides aren't something that are monitored or that you'd necessarily sample for. The World Health Organization identifies them as if they're high, being particularly problematic for people that have high blood pressure. So if you've got a population that has issues with that, it could elevate blood pressure. We have wells that we know the concentration levels are high. Well number 3, Andy?
Well number 3.
And so we can't use that well, so that's an asset of ours. It's no longer usable because of the problem. Our biggest concern right now is we don't want the problem spreading to our other wells. The test we're doing is we've seen some elevation in other wells, but the idea is to not let it get to those other wells. This is really preemptive.
And he says it's still going on.
Well, the chlorides being dumped are not happening still.
Correct.
The source has been
taken care of.
But the problem's still there.
The problem is still
Problems
there.
in the ground.
Right, and the chlorides, they are a secondary drinking water contaminant. I think the level is 500 milligrams per liter is what the limit is. It's not an enforced limit, but that's the limit. And as far as drinking water quality standards are concerned, they want you to be under 250.
So now it's containment. Fixing it, right?
It's remediation, right?
payment and elimination.
So I would be interested in hearing some next steps from the board on if you'd like to have some conversations with Greendale, if you'd like for us to set those meetings up. We're really just looking for some guidance and make sure that you're aware and that we're handling this the way we're forced to.
You guys, I mean, I'd like to hear some timeframes. I think it's very important. And leverage. However you guys want to friendly approach this and bring it back to us on a regular basis so that it does not just get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. Are we interested in a particular meeting at some point? Is that something that we should try to set up?
I'm fine with the meeting. I like them. If you want to set something up, I'll be more than happy to.
Yeah, let's get a meeting with Greendale.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea. Okay, well, I'll check with Anthony Smart and Mayor Weiss and Steve and see some dates and circle those dates back around with you all and find a time that's good for us.
Yes, sir.
Can do. So it's okay, we'll just table this, that way it doesn't get dropped off
That's fine. We'll
the
just
agenda?
We'll keep it on the agenda as a reoccurring
Yeah.
report from what's
Okay.
going on.
Probably wouldn't hurt to have Steve Lampert come to the next month's meeting and just give a monthly update, perhaps.
Good idea. Okay. All right. So you want to table it just so we can get it back, put it back on the agenda? All right, so I'll entertain a motion then to table the chloride issue with Greendale.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion will carry.
Next item, it looks like EV charging stations. Owen?
Yeah, this is one that I'm bringing to the Utility Service Board. This is something that the utility doesn't really. I don't know that any of us really have a need for it, but it is something that I think people who come to the community, people who come to the casino and the hotel, have a need for, and I think it's probably a service that as a city like ours, we ought to start thinking about providing, and that is a electric vehicle fueling station. What we're seeking here tonight is, and really I'd like to propose a partnership with the city on this, to where we do. This is a joint effort between the city and the utility. To find a place uptown, maybe it's by the Civic Park, maybe it's at the hotel, but somewhere to put a couple of these charging stations in, so that people who are on the interstate or people who are staying in the hotel that drive electric vehicles or people who are visiting our community have a place to fuel up. And that's really the nexus of it all. You can see the costs in the back. INPA would do all of the engineering work. It would be a turnkey product through INPA, through ISC. So I'll entertain some discussion on it. I mean, if you guys have questions about it, but I just think it's something that could be a great complement to our downtown area.
I'm for it, but I'd like to see the exact location before anything gets finalized.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And I think that if you read the recommendation under staff, Mr. Cook, staff recommends the board move to approve a process of evaluating 2 sites, or maybe it's 1 site, but at least a location downtown for the charging stations.
I highly believe they should be in the parking garage. If you get out and about in the city, I mean, we're doing these for the people that come to town more so than we are our people, I think, aren't we? And I think you're eliminating a lot of excavation and things if we put it in that parking garage. Can we pick up off the source, or what can we do?
Why, if we're in favor of it, why don't you guys suggest a few places for us to look at, and INPA can tell us what the cost of those locations would be. So they can come and evaluate it and say, hey, in the parking garage we think it has a cost of X. If it were, in the corner or by the event center somewhere, it'd be a cost of this. But I think they could tell us very easily what those costs should be. I mean, one of the places they may say is right here in front of City Hall.
And that's one of my concerns about I was thinking like Paul did about, one of the first spots in the parking garage, because I know when you get to the very, last block or two of Walnut and, a couple blocks on each way on High Street,
That's prime parking. You don't want someone that's charging their car there when other people could be using that parking spot.
No, great point.
And there has to be some trench work, and I just don't want to see our streets tore up again. And I think in the parking garage, we can avoid that. So I'm just saying parking garage.
Plus, it would protect our equipment if it was in the garage.
Yeah, no, there's no question.
Anybody have any suggestions other than parking garage? We can get pricing on that if you want, by the next meeting, couldn't you?
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, really, what we'll be voting on tonight is just to kind of flush out what the exact cost would be, and if we brought it back, you guys are also, no, not worth it. We just would like permission to move forward with the evaluation.
Okay. So a motion on the floor to move forward with evaluating the electric car charging stations.
So move.
Second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Looks like IMEA membership, Mr. Clausen.
Wayne Richardson presented council in December about wanting to come back and have Lawrenceburg join the IMEA. The council all voted unanimously to move that forward. I believe Mr. Abbott asked for some reasons to be presented tonight why we might join back with the IMEA. Well, a couple of the reasons. They provide essential safety and training courses that is needed on a monthly basis. In addition to what Mr. Abbott does, it's specialized safety training meetings, specific to the electric industry. They also keep track of and help our employees reevaluate, retest, recertify, as well as handle our apprenticeship. And so the employees that we have who are going through the apprenticeship, they're monitored, tested, and kind of handled by IMEA. The alternative that we have is we send those individuals to Georgia. The apprenticeship, Mike, where do we send them? Is it Georgia?
Oh, right now we send them to Alabama.
Alabama.
TVA. Valley Authority. Like I went through TVA. Some of our other guys went through TVA. Then IMEA, which developed the project and were on this, they took over safety and training in the state, and the rest of our guys went through
The other thing is IMEA is, as Crystal talked a little bit about the financials earlier, they're a great support of the community. They contributed really around $50,000 towards an event held here in Lawrenceburg, and I believe they've got some training courses they've signed up at the casino or with the hotel for. Is that correct? Yeah. Outside of the rodeo stuff that's really standalone IMEA. So they're a great support of the community. I think we more than get our money back out of them in ways that they support us. So I'm just looking forward to the board to reaffirm the vote we had at council.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion to go forward with being a member of the IMEA.
So I move.
Second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion will carry. Okay. Next item is Whiskey City Rodeo.
Thank you, Your Honor. Shelley, I'll probably call on you a little bit to talk about this, if you don't mind. We're proposing to hold our rodeo again this year. We are asking for an increase in what the utility contributes to the event. The increase is really there to match what we expect to have in additional teams coming. So we had 14 teams this last time. We're really expecting to cap out at 25 teams this time around. We had talked about the hotel about potentially having to go to other hotels up on 50, but I think we're going to try to keep it all in one place. That's the idea. And so, if we have any questions or comments on it, I'd be happy to take them.
Just to reiterate, I think Crystal talked about it earlier, so
we broke pretty even. You know, we paid out 170. We got
back 150. That's not
counting if you.
That's right. Okay.
And also that, you know, she's got a detailed list. There's a lot of things
that we won't
be purchasing this year.
Okay.
Our cost to put the event on, even though we have more people there, our cost to put the event on is going to, in terms of materials and things like that, is going to be less. Logistically, it's going to be harder. It's going to take more boots on the ground to do it. When you move from teams of 14 to 25, each team has 4 people. That's a massive amount of people to have here, especially on the fall first week.
Yep.
Yes, Mel?
Yes, was there any analysis done, Olin, on the economic impact to the city?
Shelley, you mind?
I sent Olin some information.
You have to.
Guys, I've got a little sickness, so excuse me for coughing and hacking in the meeting. I sent and please refresh my memory.
Meds here. It had a
Great impact for our area, and I can just go from what the hotel made, the rooms at the casino. Of course, I can't estimate casinos, but what was I given? Like 1, 2?
About $250,000.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought between the guest rooms at Doubletree and the guest rooms at Hollywood and the restaurant receipts and outlets and things like that. We've already booked the IME conference. The IME conference leads into the rodeo, and they're a big contributor to the rodeo, so they're looking to, lead right into the rodeo and have that be a week-long celebration. It's a huge impact for us. I know that everyone that stayed were regularly
at the
and I can tell you it's going to be a huge financial loss for our area if it doesn't happen this year, because there's no way I can replace that kind of business. We're looking at February right now, so in such a short term, it's a huge piece.
I'd like to make a few comments. I mean, I really paid close attention to this because it was in our park this last year, and I talked to a lot of the guys, and they complimented the whole town so much, and they've been to other rodeos, and they made the comments to me that were interesting. Usually they're in a field. Usually they're put out somewhere away from everything, and it was, hey, we had fun coming here, but the overall thing was I was wondering whether Fall Fest and the rodeo are going to butt heads. These guys loved being here during that weekend. It gave them something to do. They don't need much, I don't think, from the way it talked, but I thought it mixed in well with what we're doing on that weekend. And if it adds more to the community, I just think it was a great event. Plus, school buses.
Yeah.
School buses. I witnessed, I think, 4 or 5 different group of buses coming in where you had them scheduled for trades. And I heard from 2 of the places that there were 2 young men signed up for lineman apprenticeships, one of them through Indianapolis. So I think it was a good event. There is some changes that I've talked to him about, but overall, I think for the first one, I just liked it. I enjoyed it.
How did it work with the racetrack? Was there any interference there?
No, and actually, it didn't. We thought that the truck noise and the engine startups were going to be a problem, and it actually didn't affect things at all. But we have talked with Rudisill, and he's committed this year to not have the event at the same time that we do. Now that he has advance notice, so there won't be a conflict there. Some of the lessons we learned is the ticket prices for the events are going to be cut by at least half, and kids will be at a certain age will be in for free. And so, it was a learning experience on some of those things. We probably won't be letting fireworks off at 8 o'clock in the morning. So we learned some lessons.
That's probably a good thing.
So
You can eliminate that
and I will tell you, for anybody that was there, It was extremely impactful and emotional because they read off all the names of the people who had died that year, and then the linemen who had died in the state of Indiana, including one of our own, Mr. Davis. And so it was, anybody that was there would have certainly understood the reasons for it. But I do understand there's a lot of people, including up in Cleves, that didn't have an appreciation for it. But yeah, like I said, we learned some lessons. Our interactions with Fall Fest, the only thing that we need to have from Fall Fest, we found out that we don't need a VIP area because all the people were in the beer garden. So we don't need that. The only thing that we'd like to do with Fall Fest is be able to introduce those guys and award the buckles on stage, and that's really the only thing that we need.
And you can get more time for that as long as you let Marie know ahead of time.
Yeah,
Yep, it'll be scheduled.
Last year was kind of odd because Marie was out and people were trying to juggle. But that's the only thing that we need from Fall Fest. That's the only interaction, and really, we hope that the people that come here and we talked about some other dates, and when we bounce those dates off of people, they were really disappointed to hear that we were even thinking about that because they brought their families with them. And so during the day, the moms and the kids would be over here, riding the rides and doing stuff at Fall Fest. And when we suggested that we move it to another day, they didn't like that. They wanted to be here during Fall Fest.
I hope they like rock and roll though, because I don't think next year's going to be all country.
I'm sure they will. And I just want to say on the record, it was not me that advocated for all country. That just kind of happened. But they love rock. I love rock. And anyway.
Anything else?
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Shelley. So, need a recommendation then, just to move forward to host it?
Yes.
Okay. So I get a motion
to host the
for approval to host
the WCR in 2019 here in Lawrenceburg. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry.
Thank you.
Next item is replacement of Unit 9.
Mike, you want to talk about this a little bit?
Oh, I thought I was on fiber today.
Yeah. In your package, you're going to find we've got a truck that was it was purchased in I think
2001.
2001. So the truck's 19 years old.
18 years old. We have multiple problems with the truck already. As you go up here, your 5 to 10 minutes starts to bleed off. The hydraulics don't work. In your package, you can see where we had a guy by the name of Brian Wiseman. He's a really good mechanic. He's taken care of all of our fleet for a long time. He wrote a brief description on a 3 to 5 year plan. High Ranger was bought out by Terex, and they're more or less singling out their vehicles. Now they're trying to get rid of them. So the 3 to 5 year plan, you'll see where it costs every 3 years you have to pay. I think it was like $5 or $6 grand to get it maintenance, and every 5 years was $12,000 to get it maintenance. And not to mention, it's done its part here. It's not economically smart to even keep it.
And what I've did is I've condensed in the fiscal impact. I've condensed his statements down because it was
pretty long,
lengthy, and talked a little bit about a digger derrick. But we just condensed it down to showing what the cost of operation is going to be, and really these are known costs that we know we'll have. This doesn't take into account if it has a major breakdown or something like that. Again, the truck's 19 years old. We'll get $6,500 in trade for it. It is one of those things where it's not a unit that you can just go and clean up and paint and then sell to someone else.
As of right now, it needs a whole cable replacement.
Yeah, it's got some internal issues with it that we would have to disclose. And because of that, we either spend the money to fix it and then hope we get the money back we put into it, or we just take it on trade, because nobody's going to buy this truck and put it into their fleet. A tree trimmer might buy it, but
they're not going to fix it.
Going to buy it.
You wouldn't want that, like you told me. You wouldn't want to put somebody in.
No, I wouldn't. No, we'd have to.
This is a piece you have right now that you're actually using, correct?
This is a truck we're using on a daily basis.
How soon can you get this truck?
Here.
That truck's here. I've held it hostage.
It's here. Well,
I took the keys from it, and the guy can't get it.
It was back here when they had the fire going.
Now,
I kept it.
when you're covering the cost of this truck, will this be a expense to fiber optics?
Yeah, you can use it in fiber. Yeah,
we can
use it
No,
both.
this one, I mean, we may use it at times for fiber, but this is going to be dedicated to the that work.
So the fiber won't take any
No.
of the burden of the cost on it?
No, we passed a truck down to the fiber utility.
They can take your older vehicles that you are
Yeah.
capable of being.
And this is a big, this is a big 65-foot truck.
Okay.
Fiber guys don't need to get power zone. They'll be, at the neutral or lower.
Okay.
And so, is there times that we'll find ourselves using it? Yeah, probably. 90% of the time, we'll be doing hot work.
But on your fiber trucks, you can always pass the older ones
Yeah.
down and put the top of the line for the electric.
That's correct.
Okay.
So I'll,
Any questions?
You guys?
a motion then to approve the,
2019 Freightliner. I'll second.
all those in favor? Opposed?
Motion will carry.
All right, next one is the purchase of the Old Union Building.
Mr. Seymour, do you want to talk
Yeah.
about this?
Yeah, I can. We've talked, we've been talking for probably 2 years. There's a lot of thought goes in it. I've listened to conversation about a possible building on the other side of the levee. Personally, I really like it when the Corps of Engineers does their evaluation of our levee. They question me about how come this city builds on the wet side of the levee and not the inside. It doesn't seem like the right train of thought. So I personally think that if we could take the utility company and put that anchor over here in the Carpenter's building, I think it's going to be a tough building. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. I believe that the utility needs their own building. I think an office over there with a person with money on that building would be a good thing. I think it should be a drive-through, vacate the alley. We have vacated the alley on the other side. Maybe they second, third story over to partial on that lot. I've actually, I don't even know if I should mention this in a meeting or not, but I would like to see another piece of property bought and gave to redevelopment to replace the Carpenter's building so that they have that property. I just think it would be a great project, a great anchor. The utility company brings people downtown, and I think it would be great if we had people coming to that park area, and maybe they could have a retail spot on the first floor on the other side of the parking lot. It's all to be talked about. It's an idea. I just wanted to present it tonight because I really think we've got a challenge ahead of us on that old Carpenter's Hall, and I want somebody with the money to do it, and I think it's an idea worth thinking about.
What's some of the challenges, Paul? I don't know.
The Carpenter's Hall?
Yeah.
An old building with a lot of cut-up rooms, and when a person goes in there, they're going to want a lot of our money. And I believe this utility company shouldn't come to us asking for any money on redevelopment.
Me personally, I don't like this idea. I mean, that building is going to be a big cog to our new park that we just put in there. I mean, it can draw in a nice restaurant, draw some type of retail business. I would rather not put the utility company right there next to the park. Yeah, they're going to come pay their bills there, and then they're going to be broke. They're not going to be eating nowhere.
I don't know. We've got how many bills did I see on that paper? 3,000 to 4,000 people are paying us, and I don't think everybody in this town that pays an electric bill a day after they pay it is broke. I think there's a lot of people, if we can get them into the area. We've got a building here that, in my opinion, they just ain't. It's not meshing, guys.
Well, I talked to Owen about that a couple of years ago. I didn't think it all went together here. It's not user friendly,
I mean,
we talked about that before.
I sit back and I mean, we're building walls, we're creating offices, we've got a lot of people working. here's the other thing. We're starting a new utility, fiber optics. I'm not so sure that it's not a good thing. You've got an anchor there. Maybe they come over the alley and they're up on the second and third floor and they're doing something, and then maybe they've built us the first spot that maybe somebody can come in there and lease and afford. I'm not sure. But if it's something that people don't want, about the middle of the Jordan.
I don't mind getting a new building. I just don't like the idea of having that one. The park.
Well, the only thing
That's an entertainment district is what we're trying to make there.
I understand that. When Paul and Randy kind of talked to me about it, this isn't first choice, obviously, but thinking about it, we do have money budgeted for a building. If we did go into the building, we could do some things. I've talked briefly with an architect about the building, how we could try to make the building useful to the people in the park. One of the suggestions would be, just like you can go to Ivy Tech and get on the elevator and go up on the floors, you can't get in the offices, but you can go in the building. Maybe there could be an elevator that allowed people rooftop access for concerts, where they could be the concerts from up there, those kinds of things. The other thing is, anytime there's construction, it generates interest and excitement. And, the utility has the wherewithal to take a building that has a lot of historic presence and create some excitement by going in and really taking the building back to its heyday, not modernizing it in terms of looks, but modernizing in terms of tech inside. But there could be some upsides. On restaurants, I think most of the people that we've talked to, and the one architect that we have been talking with, he did Soto restaurant up in Cincinnati. He's done a number of restaurants in Cincinnati and over the Rhine. And he doesn't think that, he thinks there'd be enough square footage there for staff in the utility office, much like a bank, a counter, and things like that. But he doesn't think, and I don't know if anybody thinks, that there's enough room in there for a restaurant. Might be room in there for a boutique shop or something like that. But so I don't know that we'd have much. The restaurant could be. But it would be a way to get some money into the park area that isn't redevelopment money, isn't MDF money. In fact, we would propose to purchase the property from redevelopment, not have them give it to us for $1, but actually pay the fair price for the property. And anyway, that's kind of what it is.
Let me back up just a little bit. Would the group here be willing to let the utilities spend money on a rendering just to bring back and talk a little bit more about it instead of a decision? Is that, I mean...
Can I just interrupt real quick? You can handle your Charlie horse. There's some interest going around about that building right now that they're not ready to go to redevelopment just yet. It's not a restaurant, but it's an entertainment venue. That they know what shape the building's in, and they currently have a place like it out in Greensburg. So they would like to come down and look at it again. Me personally, I have to agree with Tony on this. I don't think that's the right place for the utility building. I don't disagree that you need some space. I mean, you need a building. I just don't know if it's the right place, because it's the whole time we've talked about this park, we've talked about anything around it to be more of the entertainment piece of downtown. I know what you're saying. I mean, it's instant cash going into that, around that park. I get that, but I don't know that that's the right place for a utility office.
And that's fine. None of us know it.
No,
but what I'm asking is would you be willing to explore? And I know that talking about it, I would like to see some renderings or something to the point to where I have a choice. In other words, if those people want to come in and make a presentation, it's the same opportunity that we might have. I'm not saying don't bring them in. I might like it better.
Well, here's the thing, though. What are we trying to do around the park? We want people in there in the evenings, and keep the office isn't open during the evenings.
There's not gonna be anybody down there during
Night in the evening.
time.
You know, that's my.
Just we have a whole
Empty lot over here across from the old Firestone building.
Where's the old Firestone building, Tony?
The burnout lot.
You haven't been here long enough, have you? On what? Right over here, right in the corner.
Well,
across from the old post office.
Okay.
Okay, across the street. That empty lot right there, it's where the city garden thing is, which when we allowed them to put that in, we always said that if it's built there, we'll try and find somewhere else for them to do it. What about a new building?
Oh, guys, we've looked at several spots. I don't know that I have necessarily a preference on a place.
What about
I don't know that going down the path and doing some conceptuals and kind of coming up with some engineering stuff I don't think it's a total waste of time, because that'd be useful for anybody else that wants to take and kind of redevelopment or whoever might want to springboard off of that. It might surprise us what they come up with.
I think we should do that. It's not going to cost that much money to get a rendering or an architectural idea. Like Paul, then you have a choice.
Yeah, I'm encouraged actually to what Kelly said. I don't know who it is. I don't know what they're bringing in, but I'm sitting here looking at an area that I think is going to be a great area. So, ideas.
Yeah. You brought us a render on the other one. You could
Yeah.
do that, you know.
Okay.
All right, that's just a little.
And then go back and look at some other pieces.
Exploratory. Yeah.
So you want to table this, or you want it to put back on your agenda, Olin, or just
if someone wants
put
to
back
make
on
a
old
motion
business or something?
that we explore the option, I would, at least we could roll it out if it's something that we come back with and it's not favorable.
Okay.
There's a lot of sun out there.
I'd like to make a motion that we let Owen bring back a rendering and some architectural thoughts on the Carpenter's Hall property.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Roll call, please.
Board Member Tony Abbott.
Aye.
Board Member Aaron Cook.
No.
Board Member Mel Davis.
Yes.
Board Member Randy Abner.
Yes.
Board Member Paul Seymour Jr.
Yes.
Motion will carry 4-1. Okay, next item is the new electric building / demo tanks.
Okay, so what we have here is the 13 guys in the meter / electric / boiler. They're currently currently working out of the old sewer building. The building has a number of issues with it, the least of which are the fact that the area that Mike has as an office is over a tank that used to have sewage in it. The roof's leak. It's not adequate in terms of size, and I think we could make better use of the property. We've already done, with the help of Mario, we did some analysis on the building to check for asbestos and some things like that about a year ago. We had some issues over there. We weren't sure what some of the things floating around were, so Mario had ATC come in and do some pretty extensive work to kind of determine that. So what we're proposing is that we tear down that old building and make a more useful space out of it. Before that, what we'd like to do is take the existing pole barn or the truck barn that we have over there, and on one end or the other of that building, build some offices and a cafeteria for the guys, locker room, showers, things like that on that building. And then once that's done, we'd wreck out the old and kind of make that property a little more useful. Don't have any idea what the fiscal impact would be. That's something we could come back to you all with a scope of work, plans to move forward. I think what we're asking for tonight is the ability to engage with some professionals to look at doing that.
Questions?
Mike don't like his current office over there.
Yeah, it's odd because
growing from the ceilings. It's gained about 3 inches in the past month.
You need to clean it.
That's all a good fertilizer.
Yeah. He comes back, man. Watched him.
yeah, they had me come down one day and look at this. Something was coming out of the wall, and he said, "What do you think that is?" So I said, well, "I just don't have any guess at all."
It's that food he leaves in his office. Growing.
No, I don't leave that office. I don't even try to breathe in that office.
Yes.
Yeah, when was the building built, Andy?
Probably 69, 70.
Yeah, like I said, that one room was it's over tanks. So it wasn't even a space that anybody was in. It was just tanks.
Nasty back.
And I don't know. There's liquid in them now. I think it may be just water, but yeah, it's past its usefulness. We've gotten more than enough of our money back out of it, and it's really more of a nuisance now in terms of you having a useful piece of property. And in downtown, property comes at a premium, and so we'd like to make better use of it.
Okay. So your recommendation or a motion for tonight would be to allow you to go forward with getting some engineered costs or
get
some
scope of work
architectural work?
Yeah, and bring that
Scope
back
of
for
work.
approval.
I'll make a motion, Mayor, that we proceed on with the project.
All right. So the motion on the floor is to proceed on with getting a scope of work for the new electric building.
Moved.
Second? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. The next one, Mr. Moosh, is LEC Hollywood project.
So, just a quick summary. The utility as well as the city and the DoubleTree have been in negotiations for us to provide bandwidth, dedicated internet access to the to set up a tech center to attract new business. And what they are requesting is an initial investment of $150,000. This would take one of their ballrooms and retrofit it to be a technology room, and then various pharmaceutical tech companies can rent that space out. What they are interested in is a cost-sharing partnership of particular ballroom, and in your packet is some estimated revenue for the next 5 years. This was generated by the DoubleTree itself. Essentially, I crunched my own numbers, and we're looking at about end of 3 years, so beginning of year 4. We would recoup our $150,000 that we would initially invest. This is also obviously in lieu of them buying dedicated bandwidth from us. Just the DIA sales over the next 5 years is $108,000, and that's the initial purchase that they're willing to do. That can obviously and should increase in time. So the numbers that they provided to me, I thought were rather conservative. Over in 5 years, approximately 126,000 revenue for the city. And the cost sharing agreement would continue after this 5 years. So long after we've made our recouped our $150,000, we would continue with that sharing agreement, and it was 80-20%. So
Long, no moosh. How long would it go on till? Just
Perpetuity.
perpetuity?
And the things that aren't covered in this, we had the boat show here the other day. If any of those vendors had said, I would like to have a gig of bands provided to me at my booth because I want to stream some videos and I want to have things that are interactive. If you go to Sharonville or you go to Duke Energy Center in Cincinnati, that's going to cost you $3,500 to $4,000. We're going to offer this for a much lower rate. It'll be very profitable. And out of this, when come to the event center and they want these burstable rates, what the event center is going to do is have them get a hold of us, have a contract with us, so we take in all the money for the burstable rates, and then we will pay the casino or the event center 20% of those revenues. So we get 80%, they get 20%. I agree with Moosh. I think the numbers that they provided us are very, very conservative. If you look at what the Met Center, and Mayor, you know quite a bit about this, the Met Center over in Kentucky, I think they were doing a few $1 million a year when they closed up. It's the same business concept that they want to have. I talked with Ryan Coppola today from the event center. They're very excited about it. They think their numbers are conservative, but they gave those to us intentionally. And we're a long ways from a deal. You know, the casino is a complicated animal. There's a lot of litigious things that go on with them that they need to sort through. And so an approval here tonight doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get this deal done. A lot of it depends on language that is amicable between both parties, contract being developed between both parties. And so I think that tonight, even though staff recommends that we fund it, I think that what we would seek here is the permission to go forward, knowing that if we can bring a deal back that you all approve of, that you all like, that there would be a $150,000 investment of ours in the project.
Question. Does this also give the hotel and event center a tool that they might get more?
Yeah, it's going to be quite a bit more.
More lucrative. You may want to expand on it.
So we're not only breaking even in the 3 to 5 years, but we're putting money out on the streets.
They figure it'll be about another, 5,000 people a year that it would bring to the event center.
And that means that.
And if they figured it, you know, if a person spends $30, I think as the example, it might have been used, or if I.
That's correct. It ended up being like 775,000 just between the additional people coming into the town. Well, from my point of view, it's imperative that we get our foot in the door with the hotel, because that's the gateway to the casino. The casino uses double the bandwidth of the hotel. We can get in the door with the hotel, show them that we can provide the dedicated bandwidth that they need. It will be a lot easier when we actually try to approach the casino, because they use double the bandwidth, period. Yeah. And that would be a fantastic revenue stream for us.
But for tonight's conversation, I agree with you, Moosh, but what this does is offer them a niche that is not around the tri-state now.
It actually went away.
It went away. It was here.
Facility, correct?
So we just need a motion to let them move forward.
Yeah, I think that's what you're asking for.
Yeah, that's right. Because like Ryan told me tonight, you know, they have some contractual issues with other providers, even at Hilton, and Hilton has to go through the process of reviewing our SLA and saying whether or not it works for them, and if they have, if they want to red light in the contract and send it back to us so we can kind of make it fit. There's just a lot of things that have to be done. They all agree. I mean, they'll be the first ones to tell you their internet services up there are horrible,
bad,
and they're paying outrageous amounts of money for what they have. And I think from the IT, I can't remember his name, the IT gentleman. Ryan, not Ryan Coppola.
Alex. Isn't it Alex? IT guy.
He, they would like to see it all under one roof, the bandwidth, because it just simplifies their life. And one thing that we can give them that the other carriers can't is we can give them dedicated pipe between the two buildings so that from an IT perspective, the buildings appear to be one. The casino and the hotel would appear on the network as at one point. And so there are a lot of reasons why they would like to do business with us, and there's a lot of reasons we want to do business with them. You know, one thing about it is starting off the relationship with just the event center and being able to do that well. It provides us with a lot of legitimacy to be able to go to other businesses and do the same kinds of things for them.
Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we let him proceed further with this.
Okay, so we've got a motion on the floor to allow the fiber utility to proceed forward with the LEC. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion will carry.
Great, thank you.
All right, and then I know Mr. Browning isn't here, but
Write off old checks.
Let me get on that. This is basically self-explanatory, and there's a code for the state of Indiana that requires us to write old checks off after so long, so they're just seeking approval to do that. The breakdown's on the final page in your packet. So.
We do this each year.
make sure
Yeah.
your name isn't on there. You might have missed the check.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and.
All right. Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry. Any other new business, Mr. Clausen?
No, Your Honor.
All right.
Mayor, I've got a piece of new business for, we've got UMBA here. Dan Hayden is the representative for that. We've got some internal that need to be adjusted. The city of Lawrenceburg concerns LMU and just the local city court.
Okay.
Dan, if you want to take the podium.
Is this on the agenda?
It's not.
I got people without. I gotta get to work. Is this gonna take very long? One's gotta go two. Two of them I gotta go to now.
I will brief as possible.
You got till 7 o'clock.
Which is a way of saying I have no idea.
I got till 7 o'clock and I have to leave, Your Honor. I got some old ladies without heat.
Thanks.
They need heat.
Honestly.
They need heat.
By way of introduction, again, my name is Dan Hayden. I'm with UMBA, and we are a CPA firm in existence since 1950. We
Spend all of our time all day, every day.
on local government issues and utilities. I'm here tonight to talk about internal accounting and reporting, which I know that the energy level when I bring up that topic just drops, and that's understandable. So I'm going to try to at least relate it to something that may be a little more relatable for this group. Internal accounting and reporting and internal controls is sort of the belts and suspenders of our profession. It would be the equivalent of, in your world, hard hats, safety vests, and seat belts. It is part of our everyday fiber. It is the core of what we do in this profession. And what I want to talk about tonight is how all that relates to you and some of the elements of reporting between utilities and the city that we need to navigate through together. So I have a presentation in front of you that will walk us through all that, and I'll be well, he's already gone.
He'll be back. His vape's there.
His what? His babies.
He'll be back.
So with that as a preamble, I want to go ahead and just jump into the slides. I will not go through all 16 or 17 of these slides. Some of them are in there for reference, and if we get into discussion, I may pull them up. So I don't want you already counting the slides going, oh gosh, this is going to take forever. It's not. If this conversation could be very quick, and I will be subject to any questions you may have. So the first thing I want to do is sort of paint the picture. And the picture from the city of Lawrenceburg's perspective, and from every external entity that looks at you, we start with the city of Lawrenceburg, of which the fiscal officer of the city of Lawrenceburg is the clerk treasurer. That's defined in your audits, it's defined in Indiana code. The utilities fit into the city of Lawrenceburg as an enterprise fund of the city. I've got a little picture later to explain that. The clerk treasurer's office in accordance with your policy, I think it's 33-13, your internal control policy, the clerk treasurer's office has duty, not only under Indiana code, but under the policies that you've adopted, to set policy for accounting and reporting for the city of Lawrenceburg. That requirement is not only for internal, but external from the State Board of Accounts. So, and again, I can answer questions on that as we move through this. So as I've looked at everything, and again, this is a presentation or forms of it that
we're really talking, and we're talking
about the overall organization of the city and how everything fits together.
The goal is not to
create more work. It's not to add burdens to anyone's individual workloads. It's to streamline the formal communication that exists in Indiana code, that is prescribed by the State Board of Accounts, and is also best practice. Okay? So the result of this effort will be the continuation of all the reporting and communication that you already do. So I know that on a weekly basis or on a daily basis, receipts come to the clerk treasurer's office, bank recs come, and that information would continue. But according to the code, there's a couple other things that have to start happening. One is a report of receipts and disbursements. And that duty actually rests with the board. The board is required to report that to the municipal fiscal officer each month. And then the second thing is a budget. And again, that's a duty of the board to report that information up through to the city. So again, the intent here is that several times tonight we've mentioned that there is a budget. So there shouldn't be additional work. It's just that formal exchange of information. And the financial statement piece, I know that you're going through a software conversion, but the financial statement piece also can be very simple. It really could just be the exchange of a trial balance. So the hurdle to get from where we are to where we need to be, I think, is pretty low, but it needs to come from this board to support that. And I want to explain why. So I'm going to go through slides 3 and 4 really quickly. So slide 3 is adapted from your audit. In your audit, as they start the notes to the financial statements, they describe to the readers of the financial statements who is the city of Lawrenceburg and what do they do. And in your audit, it says that the city of Lawrenceburg was established under laws of the state of Indiana. It operates under a mayor-council form of government, and it provides any or all of the following services. And the only one that's listed there that you don't provide is gas. And the one that will be added probably in your next audit is what? Fiber, right? So this is, by definition, through state law, who you are. Now, pictorially, on the next page, is how everything fits together. So you can see that the city of Lawrenceburg, from an accounting standpoint, is a collection of funds. The general fund, special revenue funds, when we meet as a council, we talk about those types of funds primarily. When you meet in this group, you're talking about enterprise funds primarily. And that's by design. The city funds have a different measurement focus than do the utilities. The issues that we talk about over here, full accrual, revenue recognition is different. We talk about depreciation, we talk about periodic maintenance, all of these things that we don't really get into as much on the city side. So that's one of the reasons why I think in your history you formed this Utility Service Board, is to be able to focus on these enterprise-related issues solely, and then put on your other hats and focus on the municipal issues. So from an organizational standpoint, this would be the org chart that most people see. And I put the courts under the fiduciary funds because they're going to get a similar presentation. Correct. So going on page 5, you may be asking yourself, when is this going to be over? But the second question you may be asking yourself is, well, why now? And that goes back to 2015. So in 2015, the state got, actually in 2014, the state got in trouble with the federal government because they could not demonstrate to the federal government that the units in Indiana had effective internal controls over accounting and reporting. So the state of Indiana said, okay, we'll fix that. we're going to pass an internal control framework that every unit of government in Indiana will adopt, and you were no different. You did that back in 2015 era. Your policy 33.13 in your code says we will follow this manual. That manual sets forth the internal control framework, which again, this is the belts and suspenders issue. 17 principles, 5 components, and over 100 considerations of internal controls. Now, none of these are, very few of them are very cut and dry. It's a mindset. It's an interwoven tapestry, if you will, in your organization. I'll give you an example. The last thing you talked about was writing off old checks. That's actually an internal control that demonstrates management's continued attention to your vendors and to the accounts payable process. So there is statute on it, but it also demonstrates ongoing monitoring, which is one of the components of internal controls. So the things that you do, meeting as an organization, taking minutes, all of these are part of this internal control framework that we're talking about. The reporting piece of it that I want to focus on, I'll give you at least, I'm going to show you how it touches all 5 components of internal controls. I think 7 or 8 principles of internal controls simply by exchanging a couple more pieces of information. Page 7 is a picture, and I won't necessarily explain this, but this is from the federal document on internal controls written by the government auditing office or the government accounting office, and it talks about the relationship between internal controls and our objectives of government, which are, number 1, to perform operations. In your case, serve your customers. In the city's case, serve the citizens. Do reporting, whether that be internally or to the State Board of Accounts, a grantor, or an investor. And then compliance. The writing off old checks is a compliance issue. Filling out the annual financial report by the end of February is a compliance issue. Filling out the $100 is a compliance issue. All of these are woven together. And again, I'm trying to keep the pace up here. On pages 8 and 9 are things that you can read on your own, but essentially what it says is that everyone in the organization is responsible for internal controls. But more specifically, and noted more directly, are that elected officials, management, and supervisors have specific duty for internal controls, training, and adherence to the policies that are adopted. So, in your organization, or in your org chart, if you will, the Utility Service Board is directed under Indiana Code, and I forget the citation, I've got it in here, 8-something, to provide a budget and monthly financial statements to the municipal legislative body. And what we want to work on is what's that going to look like. And as I was saying for you, it could be as simple as printing the trial balance that ties to your bank rec and is sent up to the city. And then also providing the budget each year. So the question may be, well, what does that do? How does that help? And the answer to that is it improves transparency, plain and simple. Right now, for the utilities, you are reported in your audit for the city as each fund is essentially 2 numbers, money in, money out. So your financial statement, your audit, don't really get any information on the utilities. So what this can be the start of is increasing that transparency. So for example, you have the capability to do full accrual financial statements with notes and have that audited separately, which gives that transparency to the readers of the financial statements and increases the opportunity to talk about what's going on in the utility. So there's a benefit to the administration as well. But from a organizational standpoint, and why this is an internal control issue as well as a transparency issue is that when your auditors come in, they're going to, number one, they're going to assess risk. And if there's portions of Indiana code that are prescribed to you that aren't being followed, the risk meter goes up. When the risk meter goes up, the analysis meter goes up as well. So these are things that are easily correctable. That what I would put in the category of low-hanging fruit. The information that is needed is already available. It's just got to be more formally communicated. Questions?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I knew you'd have one.
Does the State Board of Accounts provide an audit for the utilities?
Not a separate one.
You're under the audit
report database today. You're under the regulatory.
Well, let's see, when I was utility director, State Board of Accounts.
Yeah.
We sat through meetings.
Yeah.
Went through all of our numbers.
Yep, they did. They did, and
The recommendation from the State Board of Accounts, did it show up in the audit?
recommendation of what?
That we do this winter.
The State Board of Accounts
declared
that the internal control framework should be followed. So it is a recommendation based on their expectation that the city will have internal controls from the municipal legislative branch all the way down through all the funds of the utility, or all the funds of the city. So yes.
Well, I was always taught utility funds are separate from the city funds.
They are physically separate in a different bank account.
Physically estimated.
Yes.
These guys, if
Mhm.
acting as counsel, not take money from this fund and operate the city.
That is correct. But, oh, go ahead. I don't want to keep interrupting.
So why do they have to combine the reports?
So they combine the reports. When did you?
When did I?
Yeah.
When was I born?
When was your last year? 14. Okay. So I want to try to put this in context. Towards the last several years of your time, the state stopped doing the gap-based financial audits that they used to do. So if we go back to audits from 2007, 2008, you're going to see a different look to the actual document. And the reason that the utilities, explaining why the utilities were audited differently, they were because they're different funds. And they are separate, and there are walls between the utilities and the city funds that says that the clerk treasurer can't just, if we need an extra $20 for toner, we can't just go into the sewer operating fund and get it. So those walls exist.
And those walls also exist between the utilities.
They do, correct. So water can't go to wastewater, and electric to whatever. So all those walls exist. And they existed back in, I don't want to say in your day, that sounds bad, but
1947.
they existed back a decade ago. But from a reporting standpoint, the utility audit and the city audit are in the same document. In this case, and these are available online through through the State Board of Accounts website. And the State Board of Accounts does not report or audit you on the full accrual basis. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So there are partitions. The money is physically separate. The walls between each utility and the walls between the utilities as a whole and the city do exist. But it all rolls up into the city of Lawrenceburg, and the fiscal officer for the city of Lawrenceburg is the elected clerk treasurer. So said similarly, walls exist that the mayor can't just arbitrarily say, I want to transfer money from this fund to that fund. There's got to be authority to do that. And that exists throughout the city. The utilities are an amplified version of that because not only are there walls, but there's also a different accounting methodology that we use for the utilities. I hope I answered your question.
So, okay. So we have a utilities as an accountant.
Mm-hmm.
Software.
Mm-hmm.
So what does this do? I mean, I can give Rich a piece of paper and says, here's how much money. Is that what they want or what?
No.
What do they want?
I'll just read from the code because I don't want to get this wrong. And again, if I'm an auditor and I come in and look at this, this is a check the box issue for me. So, for example, you're required to keep meeting minutes. If I don't see meeting minutes, it's a check the box issue. They don't exist. So, according to 8-1.5-3-4, the board powers and duties, so we're talking about the board, under item number 6, the board is required to submit a budget of its financial needs for the next year in the detail required by the municipal legislative body. So right now, I would imagine that that would be the same way that we do it for the other funds. And then number 7, I'm sorry. Where's the cash receipts and disbursements one? Number 13, make monthly reports to the fiscal officer of the receipts and disbursements of money belonging to each utility and an annual report of the condition of the utility.
This is from the State Board of Accounts audit.
This is from Indiana Code.
Well, did the State Board of Accounts say, screwing up? If we get a hand slap is what I'm asking.
You will. And the reason I'm going to say that is because in 2015, whatever slide that is, the state officially reemphasized internal controls.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work with, with Rick's staff and Vicki, and I participated in this, and we have, I would say, aggressively tried to identify ways that we can even refine our internal controls.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's, from how I understood it, it was because of this 2015 issue.
Yes.
And I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think the only thing we need to do, and the only reason I bring this up is because there was only 2 issues, and it's because they're separate. Everything's separate about them pretty much, which is LNU and the city court. So there's just a few pieces of financial information that we need in order to be in compliance with the State Board of Accounts. So the city court's going to get the same exact, but I wanted to present it here, so just keep it in mind for the city court as well.
Well, we hired a new accountant that'll be replacing the one who's retiring. And anyway, we hired this individual. He's, for the last 3 years, he's been working for State Board of Accounts.
I know Colin. I'm very fond of him.
Yeah, so Colin and I have talked about, he's got ideas on how we can improve how we do things. He brings a great deal of knowledge specifically about what the state of Indiana is looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are great things.
Yeah. And I will say another reason why this presentation is helpful to you is that it's now on the record. And it is a demonstration that that the components of internal control, monitoring, risk assessment, internal communication, control activities, and whatever the 5th one is, we've addressed all that tonight. So we have something that we can point to the State Board of Accounts that says, yes, not only do we adopt policy 33.13, we talked about it on January 30th in a public meeting.
Well, the utility budgets were never required to be presented to the state.
Right.
Published.
Correct.
Is that?
No. Okay. No, the statute says they have to be presented to the municipal legislative body. And
Which would be the Utility Service Board.
Which would be the Common Council, the municipal legislative body. Well, code, when you realize that code doesn't have to make sense.
It's for the same reasons that Common Council has to approve rates.
Exactly.
They're the authoritative body.
Exactly.
And so it's for the same reasons.
And again, this isn't designed to be punitive or extra work, but
I'm just trying to get it
it's an area that we've got to clean up.
I'm just trying to get it straight up here.
Yeah.
It's altogether different.
It is different. It is somewhat different than how it was done 10 or 15 years ago, because the emphasis on internal controls during audits was probably a lot less than it's going to be going forward. I can tell you, and Olin, if you've been through your first audit, and the clerk treasurer's office through the audit, the amount of pre-work that you get from the auditors and the disclosures that you have to make and the representations that you have to make are materially different than what you ever had to do. You may have shown up on Monday and they were there. That was the only notice you've got. Now we've got formal entrance conferences, data requests that have to be filled out ahead of time, and it's all around these elements.
Well, here's my statement. Y'all have had me nervous as can be for the last 15 minutes because I'm a simple-minded person that thought we had a problem.
Last 3 minutes
Because I think we got no problem.
We
do
just need to tighten up.
That's why I said this is like a hard hat vest seatbelt.
If you have a problem like this, start off with we don't have much of a problem.
Keep interested.
You have to be nervous.
Utility have to present a separate budget.
Yes, each utility will need a separate budget, which is how you would do it anyway.
Which includes a new utility.
Which would include the new utility.
Yes.
Dan, what about 81.53412? It says deposit at least weekly with the municipal fiscal officer all money collected from each utility to be kept in a separate fund subject to the order of the board.
I think that's already happening, correct?
We're good with that.
Yeah, that's what I didn't talk about. Because we've got that down.
I think the trial balance sheet
Yeah.
on a monthly basis
Yeah.
would tighten a lot of things up. And again, I think with Colin coming in, you'll be greatly.
We've had some really substantive discussions about
Really?
this.
And you may be able to, and with Colin, you may be able to do full financial statements each month, but again, one of the premises here is not to be overly additive.
Yeah, this new software that we've got, the finance side of it is extremely robust.
Okay.
And so a lot of the reports and things that would be required, we have the ability to kind of go in and set that to do those things in a somewhat automatic fashion. And so our ability to mine data from our own budgets, our own numbers, produce reports, things like that is going to grow exponentially.
What are you going to?
In ISC.
In ISC, okay.
Yeah. And we've already got them on board. We're just, the finance piece was separate from the.
It's staged, yeah. That concludes my presentation unless there's any other questions.
It wasn't too long. It was 22 minutes.
22 minutes? For those of you that know me, you know that is a record for me.
Did have a timer, didn't he?
So what do we need to do moving forward?
The takeaways, or the what's next slide, is the last slide so that you have a written record. The takeaways would be working with the clerk treasurer's office, utility superintendent, and utility accountant to really define that trial balance report, the exchange of the budget, so that we can check the box. And then also the value added in the clerk treasurer's office of, in the interim here, before you get up and running, the transparency piece from the perspective of the State Board of Accounts, we will have more information in the clerk treasurer's office to answer questions. So those are the takeaways.
So monthly balance sheet and annual budgets?
Correct.
And anything else?
Yeah, the budget to actual report, I think I put that in there so that you would have.
Is that a monthly or?
That would be monthly. So if the timing, you've got to, I didn't observe the actual dates, but there's already a system in place where the bank recs are delivered.
Correct.
So it would make sense to tie all that into one bundle.
Okay.
Because it's all going to tie together. The bank recs are going to roll up into the trial balance. The trial balance will tie to the budget to actual and the budget that's submitted annually. All of that's one cohesive set of information. And it would get you in compliance with the written portions of this piece of the code.
Okay. Can we get a vote to do that?
Is that what we need to do then, to be able to?
Yeah, I would say that some sort of action. I'm over my skis at this point.
Yeah.
Keep it
Well, we can do that. Okay, entertain a motion to adhere to the deliverables, I guess is the best way to put it. Is that?
That's what we call them, just utility deliverables, LMU deliverables.
Okay.
Essentially
We'd
page.
just be adding budget to actual report, trial balance sheet.
Page 16, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think I was overly descriptive on page 16.
It's further up.
I was a little more descriptive on page 2.
Yeah,
Sorry about
all
that.
the way back at page 2. Trial balance, budget to actual report, added to the, because we already get
Okay.
the monthly bank recs from this, but that's just added to that report, I think will be smooth sailing
All right.
at the moment, correct, Dan?
And I think the annual report would really just be the December trial balance. I don't think you have to do anything different because we're already doing the AFR, which is the prescribed report.
Okay. So motion to do the deliverables listed on page 2 of the report then. Correct, Richard? Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, budget to actual balance sheet and then an annual report, which you said would be in December, so.
Yeah. All right. Can I get a motion?
So made.
Let me ask this question. It was brought here tonight. I just, sounds like you're okay with this. I'll make a motion. I don't know anything about this. So I'm taking the advice of my utility director.
And I'll
I'm
second
okay
it.
with it. Yeah.
Got a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, any old business, Owen?
No, Your Honor.
Sure. I'll entertain a motion and approve the claims. Second.
Second it.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes, and motion to adjourn.
Hold on.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Thanks, everybody. for
Hey
coming.
guys, I want to thank everybody for, I know it's a long meeting, I know it's cold. This is our first standalone utility board meeting, and this is amazing. We got through a ton of agenda items, we got to explore everything in detail. We never used to be able to do that when it was sandwiched in. I mean, this deserves its own night. I think this is proof that this is a really good thing, so thank you guys for being here and giving it your all.
This has been awesome.
Don't go.
Yeah, you got it.
Don't go.
He already left.
You know he's missing it now.
He texted me.
You mean the vote on the write-offs?
Yes. Yeah.
He was here for that, but not for the claims at the end.
I don't know.
So, okay. Get these down here. Where'd Aaron? Is Aaron back? No.
Yeah. Yeah. No, seriously, even that, like, what ports?
I don't.